Greetings, my fellow knights, and welcome back to Recon by Fire. For today's video, we are going to be covering a comprehensive guide to starting your very own Imperial Knight army. We have a lot to talk about, so let's dive on in. First off is acquiring your knight army. If you are able to, picking up either the Valor Strike box or the Hound Lance box are fantastic values for what you are getting out of them. Yes, one caters to Imperial and the other Chaos, but if you're not too worried about the aesthetics and you can modify maybe they're Chaos that have been brought back into the light, or you can just paint them very cleanly, then it is the best value. If not, of course, you can check out various second party or third party vendors such as eBay and Facebook to pick up your army. A lot of people start off with knights and then move away from them, so you can gain good value there. Last but certainly not least, you can always support your local gaming store because you do use their time and space, so why not throw some money back their way as well. Now that you have acquired your knights, and yes, I know I have not given you a list yet, that will come later. This is just the more generic basic stuff that you need to know while you are excited. You want to build the entire carapace or body structure in one piece, but leave the armor panels and the weapons apart, both for magnetization and ease of painting that we'll discuss here in a moment. Magnetizing your knight army is highly encouraged, as at the moment every single chastity we have access to is capable of being multiple variants of it based on its weapon loadout. So to maximize your finances and what you're getting out of the box, magnetizing the knights allows you to shift from one form or another in rapid succession without having to go through much trouble. The first point that you are going to want to magnetize is the torso. I think this is mandatory on the larger knights, but optional on the armigers, as it is primarily for ease of transportation, making it a little shorter and you're able to spread it across your carrying case in this fashion. You can accomplish this by not gluing down the half dome that is on the top part of the hips or legs, and then in the slot or bowl where it would connect to on the upper body, I simply took some milliput, shoved it in there, and took the high-powered magnet and shoved it in there as well. You can potentially cut into the dome itself, or the bowl, correction, and push that milliput in there a little bit further so you have a nice cleaner connection when the two knights are joined. Next is the magnetization of the arms to allow for smooth and easy weapon transitioning. I went ahead and cut the nubs off of the upper pistons or shoulder ends of the arms, and that creates a nice smooth surface to glue your magnet to. They do sell kits to allow you to place the magnets inside, but I was perfectly fine just having them on the edge because once you paint them, they are very difficult to see, especially with the armor covering them. Do take care to make sure you get the polarities correct because this is extremely important. You're going to want the shoulder magnets to all face the same direction, and then all the weapon magnets or on the elbows to face the same direction to allow smooth and easy connection. So I guess in certain perspective, it may be opposite. Just take care to make sure they can connect. Lastly, on both the armigers and the Questoris Knights, you are going to want to magnetize the carapace mounted weapon system or top mounted. It is up to you. This one also is optional because there is already a slot designed for it to go in. It's just whether you want it to be a little easier and have a little more grip or not. You'll drill the hole a little bit wider that is already present on the top armor panel and simply slide a magnet in there and glue it. And then of course snip the nubs off of the bottom of the weapon systems and glue the magnet there. I took it a step further and magnetized the missile pods so I can swap out between the two. That was probably slightly more difficult as I had to milliput some smaller magnets in position and glue them in a manner where they would connect smoothly, and it did have some trial and error. So this is optional for both the rocket pods as well as the armigers. I feel like they have good enough connection or friction to hold the weapons there with just paint and primer. Speaking of painting, now that your mechs are assembled, it is time to get them battle ready. Disclaimer, this is not a complete painting guide, but simply showing you the basics to get them ready for the tabletop. If you want to do something a little more elaborate and continue to build your skills, you can find plenty of other great and better tutorials on YouTube about how to paint your knight. For the main body of the knight, you are going to start off by priming in black, or if you want your knight to look slightly more shiny, then you can prime in something like a gray or even a white. Then you'll take your preferred metallic. It could be a speed paint, it could be just a standard metallic, silver or gold, or even brass I've seen look good on various knights, and cover the entire body with it. Once that's dried, you're going to take a wash, something like a Nun oil or maybe an oil wash if that is your fancy, and cover the entire model, or focus on just the crevices based on your preference. Yet again, this is going to give you some depth and character. You can also take something like an effects paint, oil color, or a brown wash to give it a more tarnished look, or if you like the Grey Knight's blue, take a blue wash to it and the effect will look pretty good. If it looks a little too simple for you, you are more than welcome to take an accent color, either something like a speed paint red or sand golem for gold, or even a gold, and touch up specific points, primarily the moving points and cables and gears, that will give you a little more depth of color. If you find yourself with a little extra time, you are welcome to take a bright silver and dry brush it across what you just finished putting the wash on to bring some of the highlights back in. Moving on to the armor panels, you are going to first take your primary color and cover the entire armor panel with it. You could be as quick and as messy as you want, as the subsequent steps will allow us to clean it up. If you find yourself feeling kind of spicy or have extra time, you are more than welcome to use multiple layers of various light and dark of the same color to create shading value. You can do some of this on your weapon panels if you see so fit, but of course you are going to stick primarily to the armor panels. Once you have the base all finished, we are going to take your secondary color and we are going to paint the trim of all the armor panels and adding any accents that you see fit, such as railings and shields, as well as potential lenses or glass. It is up to you. Take extra care here because this is what's going to clean up the majority of what we did with the base. You have the option here to take that secondary color and paint the pilot hatch with it to break up the silhouette of that giant panel above, but again, it is completely user preference. When the trim is complete, our model is almost done. We're going to take one more step to clean it up, and this is going to be a pin wash or panel lining to bring the separation back in. You can do this again with a diluted Nuln oil or potentially an oil wash. Again, there's multiple YouTube tutorials on how to do this. Check those out. But you're going to be focusing on bringing back those details in the separation. The difference of the panels as well as the darker recesses are going to be highlighted by this, making the model look nice and clean. Or dirty, suit your preference. With the knight almost done, we are moving on to the basing. The quickest and easiest way to get this done is to pick yourself up a texture paint, and then with either an old brush or maybe something like a tongue depressor, you're going to slather it across the base to your preference. You could be a little messy with this to make it look more natural. On that note, don't hesitate to hit up the bottom of your model with it as well, to include the feet and the armor panels to dirty it up and give it a little more cohesion as well as realism. You can go as messy or as clean as you want with this. Give it time for the texture paint to dry and then come back with a dry brush with a lighter color to give it some highlights, and boom bada bing, you are done. One option that I like to do is to print out bases that are already textured, so I simply have to go in with a base coat of something, a dry brush of a lighter color, and then I'm done. All you have to do now is slap a varnish on the knight to protect the work you've already done, and you are ready to go slay some chaos. And now for the moment you've all been waiting for, the army list that we're actually going to be collecting, building, and putting on the tabletop. At the time of this recording, it is sub 2,000 points, so you should be good to go, but obviously things can change based on data slates and whatnot. You also are able to flex a couple of slots here, but again, this is the best starter list I could come up with, and I'll explain why as we go through it. We're going to start off with the main reason you probably got into this faction, and that is the Questoris Knight. You're going to purchase one of the two kits that there are, and I err on focusing towards the Canis Rex side or the Chainbreaker box. Canis Rex right now is the best model that we can take for his point. He is one of the more expensive knights, but still solid, primarily because of his flexibility in both having decent shooting with the casino cannon, but fantastic melee, and being our only form of CP generation, being able to target himself with stratagems for a discount. He's an absolutely fantastic character, and obviously he is our only heroic character, so it's worth bringing if you want to have a more thematic army. Next up, our second big knight, which again could be a flex slot, but I am recommending the Knight Lancer because it is the plastic kit and it comes in solo. I believe the other two Cerastus Knights you have to purchase in a combo box, and the Atropos is still only in resin. But I recommend the Cerastus. You can choose another Questoris or even the Dominus class, but having the Cerastus frame allows us to build 4 different knights aside from the, I believe, 8 or 9 that we could build with the Questoris, versus going with another Questoris, or if you go with the Dominus, you're only allowed 2. The Lancer, again, is a very nice cushion knight to start off into because he has a ton of wounds and a 4+ invul. He lacks the shooting capability, really. He's mainly a threat for melee, but because of the extra durability, it plays a little bit better into you making mistakes early on. I do recommend finding either a third-party vendor or a friend with a 3D printer and picking up the weapon systems for both the Castigator and the Atropos, again, so you can mix match as you progress. Next up, you're going to be fielding 3 Armiger Helverins. These are loaded with the autocannons and the heavy stubbers. These are going to do some heavy lifting when it comes to screening and covering natural expansions. Because of their range, they're going to sit back and pick off whatever targets we can, as well as chip damage on some heavier targets, and they are absolutely fantastic into elite 3 damage or 3 wound infantry. Next up, we're going to be running 3 Armiger Warglaves. These are going to be our front line in the deep of it kind of tool. They are going to push forward to try to get Melta activated on their thermal spears to allow us to punch through those anti-tank vehicles that can cause our bigger knights the most damage and issues. Again, you are a little flexible on whether you'd like to carry Meltas on top or the Stubbers. At the moment, I recommend, again, bringing the Stubbers because as you're starting off, you're probably going to be running against more infantry, and just having the ability to remove chaff from the board and your opponent's scoring units can be extremely powerful. We are bringing allies in this list. Yes, you got into knights to play big stompy robots, but again, starting off, you're going to make mistakes. The learning curve is high, and so having more activations gives you a little more of that flexibility and cushion. Should you make mistakes, you're not completely out of the game. We're going to start off with the Calidus Assassin. For her points, she is absolutely fantastic in the knights list. Her ability to get picked up at the end of your opponent's turn and come back down anywhere on the board makes her a fantastic scoring piece for secondaries, things like Established Locust, behind enemy lines, and Sabotage. Also, later in the game, when things start winding down, your opponent has less ways of taking her out. She can also come down in a crucial position to create her Vect Aura across key points in your opponent's army that could potentially either force them to make a decision on what stratagems they do and don't use where, or even shut down stratagems altogether. If they have 1 CP for an Overwatch or a grenade and you bring the Calidus Assassin down, they are now no longer to do that or even interrupt if you have multiple knights in combat. So fantastic piece. Also, a smaller piece to help you kind of reset your hobbying. If you're tired of painting big knights, you're worn out, you can paint her in less than a day and it gives you a sense of accomplishment. Next up, we're going to be running a Sisters of Battle Immolator. This one plays a very key role, especially with our Helverins. One, it is now tougher than our Armigers, but has the same amount of movement. The key point here is that you can take it with Flamers, so we have a solid Overwatch threat, but more importantly, the Immolator has the ability to strip cover from whatever it shoots at. So you combo this in the shooting phase, it will fire first at the target, strip cover, and then you fire your Helverins into it, allowing them for maximum damage and potency. It is extremely powerful. As you play Knights, you'll realize that Helverins with AP 1 means they're AP 0, and sometimes they work very poorly because of that. And the Immolator allows you to have something to cover an objective, score secondaries while still getting in there. Because we are bringing Immolator, this allows us to bring a sister squad that is split into 2 5-mans, which again is absolutely fantastic for secondaries and screening. We'll explain in a moment exactly how they work, but they're really there for just that. They're not going to be doing a lot. Occasionally, they can score some extra wounds with their 2 Meltas, which is what you are going to bring, but they are there primarily as sacrificial lambs to either screen out the backfield or score as secondaries or sacrifice them to something like Established Locust or Arid now on the center of the board. They also offer us the ability to sticky objectives, which is absolutely huge for Knights because we really, I believe now we only have it in 1 detachment. And so when with such few models, the Sisters allowing us to sticky objectives lets us in turns 4 and 5 to push forward aggressively to score secondaries, take out our opponent, and not have to leave something valuable behind like a Helverin to watch our home objective. That is the list. Again, it is flexible. You can adjust it how you see fit, but I promise you this is a solid list as you begin to grow and learn. It also caters well to starting off at 1,000 points as you can build your Canis Rex and 2 or 3 Warglaives and get to jam with your friends while you're both building up your army. For the final part of this video, I am going to give you a down and dirty rough draft of what your deployment and first turn will look like with this list so you can employ this in your games and modify and adjust your strategy as you begin to learn and grow as a Knight player. This is going to be on a simple take and hold board layout number 1, which is typical, and a tipping point deployment. Starting off with reserves, I like placing at least 1 Armiger in reserves 95% of the time because it keeps my opponent honest and forces them to continue to screen the backfield and gives us slight flexibility in deployment later on as the game develops. I used to run a Warglaive when we would trigger Melta upon arriving from strategic reserves. That no longer happens, so I place a Helverin as it's more forgiving with its 48-inch range. Everything else will start on the board to maximize our efficiency and effectiveness. Starting off with this board edge, we are running 2 Helverins on this corner. 1 is going to be barely peeking out. It's not super conservative, but I'm not going to put it on the line. That way, if it tempts my opponent to come out and try to take it off the board, but they will have to expose themselves to get line of fire because I have it a decent ways back. If it has to come out this way to shoot. If I had it right on the line, it would be extremely easy. If I had it all the way back, we are sacrificing movement and would not be able to get on the objective. The second Helverin is going to be right behind it. This one is simply going to take its place somewhere in this area to continue to screen in this back corner. Speaking of screening, the Kaldis Assassin is well hidden here, out of sight, so it can 100% stay alive turns 1 and 2. It's simply going to move in this vicinity here to continue the screen from the Helverin and the Sisters of Battle and screen our backfield so the rest of our units can push forward. These 2 Warglaives are going to be part of our bait package as well. We have this one exposed down this firing lane where our opponent does have to expose themselves and move forward. So we have the potential of triggering our Melta ranges on these 2. They are immediately going to come out onto this natural expansion to secure it and be able to stay behind this board edge or this template edge and fire into whatever exposed itself. So it's a nice trap to set up for turn 1. If not, they simply move forward and try to get as far into this corner, into this corner. That way we can push back our opponent's deep strike and now allow them to stage here freely. The Lancer could be swapped with Canis if it's or a Trapos. I would like to stage it here. I play conservative with my large knights because I don't want them exposed until some of my opponent's anti-tank has been removed. And that's why you're not going to see me be risky with them initially, because if they get all their lines of fire on it, the knight will go down. The Lancer is simply going to advance turn 1. If you think you can hide in this template without having everything shoot at you, then by all means post up against the wall. If not, it's going to be just outside the template here, and I'm going to angle it so it can go straight through this wall and threaten either the center, whatever's on the other side of the opponent in the house, or whatever they expose here. And it's going to be a distraction card effects my opponent has to consider the following turn. The other option I like about having it here is that if it is going to be on this end and threatens the natural expansion, it's going to be exposed because it is only melee and things can't back it up. Next up, we have the Immolator. This always starts in this position and is absolutely fantastic chess piece, because turn 1, if we have something that requires us to get on the center objective, it is going to move its full movement here, safe. It will deploy the Sisters of Battle 3 inches, and they will be able to touch the center objective, allowing them to area denial, secure no man's land, establish locus, and without exposing much of our army. Moreover, if we're playing something that is aggressive like World Eaters or Blood Angels, then I consider deploying the Sisters across this wall 1 inch away. So if they do charge us, they have to come around this angle or all the way down this way. If not, then the Immolator will simply come around to this board edge, cutting that corner barely if there's something it needs to strip cover. If not, it will remain back and nice and safe to use its flamers on anything that comes through this wall, and deploy the Sisters on the back corner to sticky this objective. This Warglaive is another sacrificial lamb to bait our opponent. Again, I like putting it against this corner so they are not able to shoot it down the middle. But if they did put some solid anti-tank here, then I definitely would hug it more this way. Whatever you think. The reason why it's here is so we have an aggressive play. If they do expose something valuable in this corner here, then it can push and get into melter range, as well as having a threat to potentially charge around this corner, or advance and stage here behind this wall to threaten their natural expansion. Putting it too far back means that we're just giving up a little bit of real estate. It's unfortunate if they go first, but it's valuable either way, because then we can also react. And again, it baits them to putting something out there where we could potentially fire back. This Warglaive is simply there, so we have another threat to go to the center and back up this one, but more importantly, it's complete out of cover and just maximizing our movement. Canis Rex is going to be off the template entirely, but he is right on it, so his 10 inches gets him just over to the other side of the wall should he need to try to charge. It is a little far back for him to be aggressive, but what I typically do is if the opponent doesn't give me anything solid that I have to push forward with, then he will typically toe into this building only that stages and allows him to shoot just this edge and shoot down this way, but mitigating any fields of fire that can come down here. And they again have to push down the center to have line of sight on him. You can also just barely toe in as well if you need to. Offers you some flexibility. The second squad of Sisters are going to be our screen. They're going to be 9 inches from the corner and this wall edge to block off any deep strikes from our opponent, but also touching the home objective to sticky it. This Warglaive and this Helverin are key points. Depending on, again, how the opponent deployed, you could be aggressive or conservative with them. I typically like to be a little more conservative with this one and more aggressive with the center one, since we would replace it with all these units, because this is going to be keep my opponent honest threat. It's going to move forward and stage here. What this is going to do is bait my opponent to potentially come out to try to get an angle here on it, but it also threatens anything that is on the home objective or on their expansion. So if they put just the smallest thing on there to tow it, then this guy can come through the wall and touch it to steal it away and still be able to fire. Or if they do throw a solid piece of anti-tank here to try to shoot at Canis or this Warglaive, then the next turn it can come through the wall, get within Melta, and blast it. This also allows us to push back their deep strike so they are unable to bring something in from strategic reserves here or here and have an easy setup to charge us the following turn or shoot at us. This Helverin is going to follow this Warglaive out, positioning here so it can threaten fields of fire down this way across the board and typically outrange anything else. Later on in the game, depending on how things go, this Helverin can come in to screen out any gaps that we may leave. For example, if our Calidus has to get picked up, or if maybe they blast this Helverin down here, it can come back and replace it, or double up on the fields of fire down this lane, which is extremely powerful. Of course, if your opponent leaves us a gap in the backfield and they forget, then by all means bring it down back here, get some shooting in, and absolutely threaten mayhem with them in the backfield. And that is pretty much my basic deployment. I'm not going to go too far into anything else beyond turn 1 because based on the army you play and how dice roll, the plan can go to mayhem. Again, if you're feeling saucy and spot, you can swap Canis and the Lancer. Canis again will be able to pop out this way first, shoot whatever comes out this way, and then stage behind this wall to come out towards the center, or threaten, come out this corner, like around this edge, and be able to fire down this way. I like keeping him alive as late as possible because the later in the game, the better he gets, as few things can deal with him, and he continues to generate that free CP. The Lancer then on this side, I would be inclined to not push it towards the expansion and just give it to them and use it as a distraction Carnifex, maybe even starting it in the building so they feel like they might be able to take it out. And then you could push it straight down their throats down this way based on what detachment you run. I think I would still start it off the template and just advance it turn 1 to stage here to either come through this wall or plow here. I highly discourage coming down this way unless you feel like you're going to get max value from it, because again, the only thing that will be able to support it afterwards will be this Warglaive and maybe this Helverin. Everything else will be closer to this side of the board. That is going to do it for this video. Thank you so much for watching, my fellow knights. If you got something out of it and enjoyed the video, by all means, take a moment to let me know in the comments down below so I continue to make training videos like this. And if you'd like to support the channel directly, then consider becoming a channel member where you get access to videos early. You will get a shout out on the videos, as well as being able to suggest units for us to take in our list dependent on our collections. But that is going to be all for today. So thank you so much for watching. And until next time, as always, happy gaming.